So, Native Instruments have released what I would consider the best update for the Kontrol Mark III keyboards. This is version 2 of the firmware and it improves DAW control significantly. And for Ableton Live in particular, this means that the controller now maps automatically to Live's native devices and you can see their names and parameters on the screen. But that's not all. It also adds automatic control over third-party plugins which aren't NKS compatible. Before this update, only plugins that supported the NKS standard had their parameters appear on the screen automatically mapped to the knobs of the keyboard. So does this mean that NKS is obsolete now? Not at all. You still get better experience with NKS compatible plugins, but I'm really happy to see yet another update that opens up these keyboards to work better with stuff that's outside of the NI ecosystem. And just to be clear, the update isn't just for Ableton Live. Users of Logic, Cubase, Bitwig and Digital Performer also get these new features. And support for other DAWs such as FL Studio, Pro Tools, Studio One and Reaper will be rolled out in the coming months. So here's what it looks like. Previously the plugin button was only active when we had complete control or contact loaded, but now it's active when we have a built-in device, one of my synth presets from one of my packs. And as you can see, all the parameters are mapped automatically to the knobs. And you can even go to the second bank of macros, which isn't used here. And then we can see how the compressor looks. Again, several pages of parameters. Now, if you go back to that rack, we can hit the soft button above the screen once again and open up the rack so we have access to the devices inside the rack. Now if we go to this track, we can see that we can seamlessly switch between controlling the Native Instruments devices such as Contact, the built-in Live devices such as the compressor here, and a third-party plugin such as Valhalla Supermassive, which isn't NKS compatible, so it's great to see this one map automatically to the keyboard. And again, we have several pages of parameters for this one. Now there's one caveat about this third-party plugin mapping, is that it only actually works for non-NKS plugins if the plugin actually exposes its parameters to the DAW. So for example, with the micro cork, you can see that the parameters are not visible. Unless we press the arrow here, hit configure, and then manually add these parameters. I don't think this is the keyboard's fault, it's just how things work when these plugins don't expose their parameters. For example, if you go to the next plugin, Crystalline by Baby Audio, you can see that all parameters are again available on the screen. So I guess it depends on the actual plugin. But honestly, I'm really mostly super stoked about Ableton's native devices. For example, if we are using a drum rack, we can just select the different samples inside the drum rack just by hitting the corresponding key. And we can instantly see their parameters on the screen. And there's also another pretty cool addition for the mixer page. The level indicators for each track now appear in the track's color. And in fact, even on the plugin page, the knobs have the color corresponding to the track. So this is really makes it much easier to figure out where you are in your project and what track you're controlling. And we also have more precise control over the levels in our mixer. Just by holding shift, we have the ability to do finer adjustments. And also the built-in ARP on the keyboard now syncs automatically to the DAW's tempo. And this update also makes these keyboards more inclusive by adding a fully integrated accessibility mode for visually impaired users. I will link the support article where they explain everything you need to know to get this update up and running, but essentially you need to open Live so it auto updates to version 12.2.2. You need to download the Kontrol S series MK3 firmware updater. And you also need to update the hardware connection service. This is done from native access. Okay, so it's been almost 2 years since these keyboards were released, and NI have added a lot of new features that enable them to play better outside of their ecosystem. In previous updates, they enabled the play assist features like chords, scales, and the ARP to work on the actual device, so you no longer needed the complete Kontrol plugin to use these. Then they added MIDI templates and the ability to send MIDI to the MIDI out ports and the USB simultaneously, so it was a great update for using the keyboards with hardware synths. One thing that's really missing though in this Ableton Live control script is the ability to use the capture feature directly from the keyboard. So if anyone from NI is watching, you have to add this. It's a must-have on a device that's primarily used for MIDI recording. And so if you own one of these keyboards, are you happy with the updates? And if you don't own one, would you consider getting one after all these improvements? Let us know down in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.